Today I have a return visit from Mads Torgersen, one of my absolute favorite guests. Mads is a architect at Microsoft and the lead designer for C Sharp. Mads, how are you?
I'm great. It's so good to be back. Good to see you again.
I'm so happy to have you here. I want to talk today about two topics, if that's all right. One is C Sharp slash languages in general and AI.
hmm
And then the other is if you can give us a quick snapshot of where C Sharp is now and what to look at over the near horizon.
That sounds good to me. Yeah, the second is definitely more of my area of expertise, but these days AI is like the weather. Everyone is qualified to talk about it.
That's yes. And my statement on AI is get on the bus or get run over by it.
Yeah,
So,
that's not entirely wrong, I guess.
so I've been taking a 16-week course on AI and I've been reading like crazy. And what I find is that outside of the .NET universe, Python seems to be the predominant language of AI. And inside the .NET universe, from what I can tell, you sort of have your choice between Python and C Sharp. Is that, first of all, an accurate picture of where things are?
There's certainly a trend that I think Python has a head start with AI in terms of like if you ask a large language model to write a program and it doesn't know anything about you and you don't specify the programming language, chances are it'll pick Python, you
Hmm.
know, or it may do JavaScript or TypeScript, but more likely Python. Um, I don't think that there's a particular affinity between the nature of Python and the nature of AI or something like that. But Python is extremely broadly used, and Python is dominant in machine learning among many other places. And so I think there's just been it's been coming in through being also a favorite language for of the communities that AI grew out of as well. It's also about training set, right? There's just an enormous amount of open source Python out there.
Yes. Yes. And learning Python, it feels like they took C Sharp and stripped out all the type safety and and all the curly braces and the
That is not how they did it.
that's what it feels like.
I don't know that Guido even knew about C sharp or knew C sharp when he did Python. But I mean, Python it does look maybe a little bit more like text, natural language text than C sharp, perhaps, because there are fewer glyphs. They use significant white space more. Um, but I don't know if I don't know if that's a factor. Perhaps it is.
Well, some of Python is compiled into C, as I understand it.
Yeah, one of the major implementations, like there's C Python, where it's implemented in C,
Hmm.
um, is I think is more the way to put it. Um, but
So, so,
yeah,
so has AI uh, impacted your design on C Sharp?
it's probably starting to. Um, I won't say that it's well. If my manager asks, "What have you done for AI lately?" then I'd probably say yes. um, in the sense that I think AI related scenarios was one of the major factors in our recent doubling down on getting union types into C sharp, um, because they're just union types kind of have a double. And we talk about later what they are, but they kind of have a double significance. I think they make speaking over the wire probably remove some of the impedance mismatch from speaking over the wire, like say in JSON or something like that. That's the
Hmm.
promise of it. Many other languages have union types, and they kind of help because JSON also often has unions in it, sort of implicitly. And that's important for like when you, it's important for everything you do over the wire, but a lot of a lot of stuff goes back and forth between uh, programs and LLMs, right? So that's one of the
Mhm.
scenarios where that's just helpful if you're programming for you, if you're using AI in your own programs. And then it's also unions kind of naturally represent something, sort of intuitively represent something. It's either this, or this kind of thing. That is a simple concept, and it's prevalent in English. Certainly, if you describe something a program should do, you would often put it in those terms. But C sharp and many languages don't have a sort of easy corresponding programming language construct, so you tend to do more convoluted ways of expressing that, especially it can only be these kinds of things. Part of it is hard to express in your standard object-oriented language. So that means that I think that uh, AIs and other programmers have to go through more hoops to accurately represent that, making it um, probably a little harder for AIs to do a good job with C sharp uh, programming, representing intent faithfully, if you will. So that those are kind of among the motivations for why we finally sort of said, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and figure out what union type should look like in C sharp.
So I'll ask you the impolite question. If you're a .NET programmer who's been coding in C sharp for, well, I won't say out loud how many years, uh,
Oh, you're
but
talking about a
many,
specific one.
a specific programmer, would your recommendation be to do the AI programming in C sharp
Yeah,
or no?
absolutely.
Yes, you would.
Yeah, totally. No, I don't think I think C sharp is great for that.
So do I. Oh,
The
for that. Okay.
we don't C sharp is great in general. Obviously, I'm
Right.
not
So
biased at all. But I mean, for AI, if you're if you're asking about programming like with AI, not using AI tools, but actually
mhm.
using AI in your own thing, the main thing for you is to have access to good libraries and good abstractions for interacting with the AI. And C Sharp and .NET are completely on the ball there, and there's lots you can go and reach for there. So so that you know that's probably more important than what language you're in, to be honest.
Right.
Is um, that there is a programmatically kind of appealing way of talking to the AI, and that you know C Sharp and .NET are totally on that, as well as probably several other frameworks out there. So yeah, please stick around.
Okay, that's good. Having invested 20 some odd years in it, I'm inclined to do so. And also, .NET seems to have a number of tools that are a higher level of abstraction than you find, um, at least when there's a general discussion of AI. It's down at the level of building the encoder and just rolling your own on a lot of things that I think .NET provides for you, at least at first glance.
Yeah, I mean, we try. This is we're sort of not at the edge of my expertise here. I don't think I could do a good comparison between how .NET and other alternative stacks are doing in this space. I think everyone is kind of racing to make sure that it's an appealing experience, and that developers uh, can adopt uh, patterns that make sense to them in this programming, and we certainly are too.
One of the areas of confusion, I think, is that there's often you hear the use of AI as a tool for development conflated with using AI as a component of the thing you're developing.
Yeah,
And I think it's important to tease those apart. And I find that in writing my C sharp code, I'm using it as a tool more and more. I'm letting Copilot do more work than I would have expected It's surprisingly effective,
Yeah.
surprisingly accurate. I mean, not always. You got to follow up, but and having it generate uh, uh, tests is wonderful. Uh,
Yeah.
Everybody hates doing that, so so um,
Yeah. Yeah. People are often worried about AI is taking away the fun part, right? Oh, it wrote the program, and now all that's left is for me to review all that code and to test it and all. But you know, AI really is good at doing a lot of the boring stuff as well. And I I think you can sort of the you get that feeling when you use it sort of usefully that um, it's an enhancement, right? It's letting you more quickly, even as you may still be in the code, kind of directing things. It lets you get more quickly to where you want to be and skip maybe the boring parts or the tedious parts. Um, and also, some of those error-prone parts where um, it can maybe do a better job.
yes. And one of the things that I also find myself using it for is if I'm looking at someone else's code, where someone else's code might be defined as something I wrote 6 months ago.
Hmm.
It's pretty easy to grab some of it and say, "What's this do?" and have it
Yeah.
give you a step by step explanation of what you're looking at.
Yeah. So I find that it's it's pretty clear that it can be an amazing boost in your productivity in the best sense. And
Hmm.
I think in many ways it feels similar. Like, it has many. It's not the same, but it has many similarities to um, when IDEs were starting to become popular. That um, having a having a tool that understands the code at some level and that you can collaborate with as you produce it. An IDE gives you completions and safe refactorings and all that kind of stuff. And it feels like AI is the same kind of productivity boost, that you have a tool that you can collaborate with so that you operate at a much higher level of productivity and confidence also.
On
Um,
steroids, but yes, I agree.
yeah. And I think, um, I mean, one of the things that people have been focusing a lot on, well, do people even need to get involved in coding anymore? And I think there's definitely a set of kinds of things that you would program that humans can get less involved in, maybe not at all in some cases, where depending on how important it is that how mission critical the code is, or how important performance or other factors are, how long lived it is. Like, one-off apps that you just make for yourself to, you know,
Hmm.
um, solve a problem at hand. On the one end of the scale, you can definitely, people often say, well, I just asked AI to write it. I didn't even look at it. It just did the thing for me. And that makes sense. And then at the other end of the scale, um, for the foreseeable future, I think a lot of human involvement is still you know, necessary, and best, right? To ensure quality or to solve gnarly problems or innovate and those kinds of things.
Right, which is why I think junior programmers are in danger, whereas more senior experienced programmers, there's still a significant need.
I I agree that there's currently a thing. I wonder if it will stick around. I hope not. There's there's a little bit of a thing where, or more than a little bit of a thing maybe, where it's hard for junior programmers to actually get hired
Hmm.
right now. Everybody's looking for experience, and thinking that they can replace the junior programmers with AIs. But where are the senior programmers going to come from? you know,
Right.
if show me a senior programmer that wasn't a junior programmer once. It's kind
That's
of
right. That's right. Although the hope I think is that by the time you need senior programmers, AI will have evolved. But speaking as a senior programmer who's having looking for work and been doing so for a while, senior programmers are it's a tough market for everybody at the moment.
oh yeah, no, that is true. Yeah, it's not limited to junior programmers for sure. Yeah.
Okay, let me switch subjects on you before I get too caught up in my own Michigas. C sharp, state of C sharp at the moment, and then am I right that November is the next iteration?
Yeah. Yeah. We're on a yearly cadence, and November is when new versions of .NET and C Sharp come out. We have the .NET conference and reveal it all to the world, and the world, of course, already knew because it's all open source, but still. Yeah, so we're kind of halfway to the next C Sharp. If you
Hmm.
look at a calendar, um, we
You
have. Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, you started with unions. Are unions out at this point in C sharp?
Yeah, they're out in preview. They will officially release in November.
Okay,
It was C Sharp 15. Oh my God,
good
C
grief.
Sharp 15, and we put out unions in preview. Like when you compile in C Sharp, you can say lang version preview, and you can try the new features in the production compiler. And I believe, if not already, then any day now, the public uh, Visual Studio Preview should have them enabled. They're already enabled in Visual Studio Code through the C Sharp extension, so people can start playing with them as a language feature and give us feedback. And they are. There are some things still missing from it, but we wanted to get sort of the core model of it out so we can get some usage, and so we can tinker if there are things that don't work as well as they probably should. People run into problems that we hadn't thought of or didn't think were important.
Well, we haven't actually defined unions yet, so maybe you could just in a
Oh
couple
yeah, yeah, and I
sentences say what they
guess
are.
yeah, cart before the horse. I do that a lot. Um, so unions is like the way most people are going to interact with unions is uh, you can declare a union type where you say, you know, classic example, union pet is cat or dog or bird. And, there's a nice terse syntax for that, a type declaration. And where cat or dog or bird are existing types that you find somewhere, and they don't need to be related in any way. They're just like other types. And what that just means is that a union value is a thing that is either a dog or a cat or a bird. And the way you find out which is by using pattern matching, which we've now had in C Sharp for a decade or so. So you pattern match against a union type, and you can ask, are you a dog? If so, you know, call it D and work on the dog, and so on. And for switch expressions, they know that there are only those three possibilities. So you won't, like, unlike when you're switching on like a base type or something today, when you switch on all the things it can be, it's not going to say, hey, you aren't dealing with all the other cases. You're not going to
Mhm.
it's going to know that you have exhausted, that there's exhaustiveness. You have gone through all of these. So there's kind of like a strong, a stronger checking, if you will, stronger type checking involved, where you know if you have looked at all the possibilities.
But there need be no common base type or ancestor type. Is that right?
Correct, other than object.
So I could
In
have a bird and a integer and a string
If
in
that
my
makes sense
union.
to you, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, no, that could totally make sense, right? That doesn't need to be. They do need to convert to object. It's possible that we can remove that restriction in the future. Most things convert to object anyway,
I
but
thought
there
so.
you
Yes.
know there are odd things like pointer types and ref structs and things that don't. And so they are not covered by unions currently. They're more like probably um, edge cases for smaller audiences, and we haven't catered to that currently.
Well, having come to C sharp from C and C++, pointer types are anathema to me. I
Yeah,
stay away from them. So
good for you. Yeah, yeah. Stay away
as much
from it.
as possible. There be dragons here. So what else is new in C sharp? What should I be looking at?
Uh, well, unions are the big thing. There's a sort of a companion feature to unions that we also hope to get in, which is what we call closed hierarchies or closed classes where you can say that, you know, for a normal class hierarchy, you can say that everything that inherits from this base class needs to be in this same compilation, like same assembly.
Hmm.
And that again gives you, first of all, it protects you from having unwanted people plug it, other code plug into your abstraction.
Right.
But it also again gives you exhaustiveness when you're pattern matching. So it's another way of of putting a compiler enforced limit on the kinds of things that can be there, but through inheritance instead. Then we have a few enhancements to collection expressions.
Before you go there,
Yeah,
just the one you just mentioned, can
uh-huh.
you just differentiate that from a sealed class?
Yeah, sealed class you can't inherit from at all.
Okay.
Um, a closed class you can inherit from, but only if you're in the same assembly as that class, which means you limit the inheritance to classes that you pick when you specify the base class. No,
Which is still different from protected.
yeah, protected is about who can
Access.
see and access the members
Right.
through inheritance. Yeah,
Okay. Just want to make sure we've got those
yeah, yeah.
disentangled.
No, that's good. And it's also something people have been asking for a long time. So it goes well with unions and closed classes kind of go well together as a pair. So we're hoping to get both done in time for this release.
Great. And other features that I should be
Uh,
anticipating?
Other features are mostly enhancement of things we've done in recent years. Collection expressions is a feature that has really, a lot of people have picked up. That really does a lot of heavy lifting. And for those, we are, again, time permitting, we're hoping to add the ability to express dictionary elements in them, dictionary expressions essentially. So you can use them to initialize the dictionary type. So essentially, pairs of keys and values have a syntax for that.
So
Um,
I'm trying to picture that. Is that I hand you a bunch of tuples and it turns it into a dictionary or
yeah, if you the collection expression syntax is an expression that has square brackets at both ends, right?
okay.
And then you whatever type it gets assigned to, the target type of it gets created with those elements. And for dictionaries, it's the same thing. You have those square brackets, and it's just that the things that you put between the commas can be key value pairs. It's going to be key colon value essentially at each spot. So it's just
Gotcha.
letting that syntactic form do more work for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll be nice.
So that's good. I think a great incremental improvement, one that we sort of had in mind from the start when we did collection expressions that we're finally getting to.
When did collection expressions come in?
Oh, good question. It feels like not that long ago,
Hmm.
but I'd have to look it up.
That's fine.
Maybe
That's fine.
4 versions ago, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, I must say, difficult to keep up. You guys
Yeah,
are producing a lot of change rapidly,
yeah,
and the language is. I've seen C sharp code that I've looked at and said, "What language is that?"
yeah.
It's like
That is, yeah, and I'm sorry. It is very deliberate. It's not confusing you is not deliberate. But
that's easy. That's the easy part. Is confusing.
we're not out to get you, but we are, and have for a long time in C sharp. Uh, there's sort of like there are two ways that programming languages can end. One is that you overstuff them and they become intractable,
Hmm.
and one is that you fall behind. And we don't want to become intractable, but we certainly don't want to fall behind. So we for a long time we very deliberately erred on the side of if there if there is a significantly better way to do something that became possible uh, because of whatever reasons. Sometimes it's just that there's a better idea around. Sometimes we steal it from another language. Um, then if it's better enough, then we should do it. And it's okay that C sharp then has two ways of doing things, the old way and the right way.
Yes.
and and then we we have to just try and guide people to the new stuff, um, and help explain that. So it's not that we want to fill C sharp up with syntax, but we want to make it so that you can express yourself at a higher level, not just more tersely, but at a higher sort of conceptual level, and where the compiler maybe does more of the heavy lifting of writing code that's correct and performant under that high level abstraction, instead of you having to manually sort of sometimes pick between, well, what's the least ugly way versus what's the least slow way,
Right.
and have to manually navigate that. So collection expressions are a great example because before they came into the language, depending on the different kinds of collection types that are in C sharp, there wasn't like one unified way of creating one with elements, right? For arrays, you had one syntax. For for mutable collections, there is collection initializers, but that didn't work for immutable collections. Then you had to
Hmm.
do something else still, and there were these three or four different kinds of ways that people had to know about, um, and they just unify that, and depending on the receiving type, the compiler just makes smart decisions that we have built into it about what's the efficient way of initializing this type of expression. And then they take your elements and put them in using that knowledge. And you don't have to worry about it. You can just trust the language to do the right thing on your behalf.
Very
And
cool.
and whenever there's a feature like that, that that really is something we want to invest in. That is bringing coding to a higher level, cleaner, more intuitive, more performant, more coherent C sharp code. Yes, we absolutely do it. We absolutely lean into that, and then drag people along kicking and screaming into their own bright future.
That's great. That's a great image because that's what it feels like sometimes. But
Yeah.
when you get to the other side, let me shift just slightly before we step. I did a Pluralsight course years ago. That the premise was that people were coming to TypeScript from JavaScript, and so mine was for C sharp programmers going to TypeScript because there are some tremendous similarities. And have the two languages grown closer or further apart?
uh, TypeScript and C sharp. I I don't know that those two specifically have grown closer together. I think that there's been a long running um, trend or process among sort of industrially popular programming
Hmm.
languages where we all learn from each other, borrow from each other, steal from each other. There's been a trend towards less ideologically pure languages. You don't pick a pure functional language or a pure object-oriented language or so on. The languages that are popular, they tend to kind of span several. They grab whatever seems useful, whatever feels like a good idea from multiple different paradigms or schools, if you will. And it's not always about like sort of the deep semantic fabric of the language either. There's long been a trend towards just having code be more lightweight, getting rid of more boilerplate or more layers of necessary wrapping that you have to put in. So through that, all modern programming languages many of them tend to have a lot in common. That's sort of a result of that process of rubbing off on each other. Uh, and that's certainly true for C sharp and TypeScript as well, but I don't know that it's particularly strong because we talk to each other more, although we do, or whether it's just a part of that general industrial um, kind of homogenization almost that's
Right.
happening, or
Right.
or um, constructive interference. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Well, as usual, this was fantastic. Um, Great insight into both C sharp with AI and what at least the primary things that are coming with C sharp. If people are interested in getting detail and more exhaustive list of what's coming over the horizon, what's the best place to go?
Actually, go to the C sharp page at learn.microsoft.com,
Okay.
because when we preview language features in the compiler, we also preview documentation. So you can just go and go to there's a list of what's new in C sharp 15 that um, that's right there. That'll tell you, start explaining what a union type's like and so on. And then you just turn on language and preview, make sure that you have an IDE that is updated to help you out with the new features.
So
Um,
2026 Insiders would be a good
that
place.
yes, that would be a good one. Or if you're in VS Code, um, use the pre-release version of the C Sharp extension. That'll get you there. Unions are the most interesting thing that's available yet. The other things I mentioned are mostly still on their way. But yeah, grab that, get playing with unions, and if you do it within the next couple of months, and then we have time to react to your feedback and change any grave mistakes that we may be about to make. So
Great,
yeah.
great. The typical reaction to my feedback is the mute button, but that's fine.
Oh,
And on that happy note, Matt, thank you. This was and terrific, and we'll have you back soon if you're willing.
always a pleasure.
Always educational.